Done. It is 11 a.m. here in London. It's 4:30 p.m. in Yangon. I'm Monita Rajpal. This is World One, live from London. A champion of democracy and a Nobel Peace Prize winner. Even before Aung San Suu Kyi started speaking, the Myanmar opposition leader received a standing ovation at London's School of Economics. It is her first public appearance in the UK on this, her 67th birthday. Correspondent Dan Rivers is following the pro-democracy leaders' movements around Europe, and he is at the LSE right now. He joins us now live with more. Dan. Thank you. Dan Rivers there at the London School of Economics. They were the eyes and ears of the world in Syria. Now the future of the UN monitoring mission hangs in the balance. A few hours from now, the head of the mission will brief the UN Security Council days after General... or if they'll start again. Activists say shelling in the city of Douma has trapped entire families under the rubble. Well, the leaders of the U.S. and Russia say they agree that the violence must stop, but that comes amid allegations that Russia is sending shiploads of troops and weapons to Syria. This map shows the route taken by one of those ships. It was last seen off the coast of Scotland, but on Monday, the British company that had been insuring it decided to stop its coverage. CNN's World Affairs correspondent Jun19 is following the story from Washington. She joins us now live. And so, Jill, President Obama and President Putin had been talking about, had been meeting on the sidelines of the G20, and now they had agreed that the violence had stopped. But has there been any response to now word of this ship being anchored off the coast of Scotland, potentially carrying weapons for Syria?
Yeah, this is getting a little confusing, Monita, and perhaps deliberately so. The first one...
Okay, all right, Jill, sorry for interrupting you. I appreciate that. Jill Doherty there in Washington. You are watching World One live from London. They'll be on the verge of forming a new coalition government. That's what an official with the Socialist PASOK party is telling CNN. PASOK came third in Sunday's parliamentary elections, but the winning centre-right pro-austerity party, that's the New Democracy Party, didn't secure enough votes to rule outright. And that means it has to cobble together a government with other parties in the fragmented field. The PASOK official says 3 of the 4 parties that came out on top are meeting at the presidential palace today to put together this coalition. National joins us now live from Athens. And Matthew, I guess everyone's really wondering, is this coalition actually going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question that's been raised by this. All the political parties, when this process began yesterday...
Thank you, Matthew Chance there live for us in Athens. Now, Greece has been a big news. Are saying Britain's independent has this headline, muddling through may just be our salvation. It's an opinion piece that says it is all a complete mess, but it is possible and indeed desirable that the messy solution includes the euro remaining in its present form. The Eurozone countries are busking it, but in a context where there is not a single leader of any country that wants to leave. The headline in the International Herald Tribune, Greece as a victim. The commentary says the only way the euro might be saved is if the Germans and the European Central Bank realize that they are the ones who need to change their behavior, spending more and, yes, accepting higher inflation. And finally, The Australian has a guest editorial with this headline, Greece's vote is a victory for broader Europe. And it goes on to say there is strong European will, political and financial, for the euro to remain. Structural problems remain, but there is room to move forward. If Europe is unable to work through the issues of Greece, a relatively small economy, how could it handle a bigger economy such as Spain? Take a look at this. 12 North American adults weigh approximately the same as 17 people in Asia. Now, we all know the world is getting fatter, but what are the political implications? Some new research suggests the extra weight that the world is carrying could have the same strain on our resources as an extra billion people on the planet. Scientists in London say the world's population is now 17 million tons overweight. And they say although North America accounts for 6% of the world's population, it makes up about 34% of its total mass, and it is the world's poor who are paying the price. Professor Ian Roberts is from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and he was involved in this research. He joins us now here in the studio. Professor, thank you very much for being with us. Give us an idea, what kind of we're talking about the political implications of this. I mean, there's the overweight, the obesity issue, there are the health implications, but you're talking about political implications for this.
Yeah, fatness is an issue for personal health and planetary health. It's a sustainability issue. So many eat it.
And you see, like countries, for example, in Europe, there is a cycling cycling society.
Exactly.
The government will actually make sure cycling is a factor as well. You don't see much of that in London, granted, but in the United States, that's not so much the case unless you're out in the West Coast.
I think you're right, yeah. They've paved paradise. And I think...
U.S. President Barack Obama took time out during the G20 summit in Mexico to sit down and talk to Russian President Vladimir Putin about the crisis in Syria and the United Nations to stop the violence and prevent civil war, but no specific breakthroughs were announced. The crisis in Syria has strained relations between Washington and Moscow. President Obama is urging Mr. Putin to put more pressure on Damascus to stop the killing, but Russia has said it does not support any action against Syria. White House correspondent Dan Lothian is traveling with the U.S. president and filed this report.
The temperature of the U.S. reset with Russia is heating up, with U.S. officials telling CNN Russian ships, one allegedly loaded with helicopters and munitions, could be headed to Syria.
Later today, the U.S. government will unveil the so-called Trafficking in Persons Report, or TIP. The U.S. State Department says it is the world's most comprehensive look at the nature and scope of human trafficking and what governments. Gunmen in Pakistan have killed a famous female singer who rose to fame for defying the Taliban. The Pashto singer Ghazala Javed angered the Taliban by singing, dancing, and recording music. I guess tell us a little bit more about this, about her, and what she meant to the people of her fans, I should say.
Yeah, Monita, this is a big loss for ethnic Pashtun music lovers who live in...
from Islamabad. We take you now to Nigeria, where questions remain about the plane crash earlier this month. While an investigation is underway, the airline CEO insists Nigerian aviation regulations are tough enough. But one victim's grieving family, left with only photos and memories, says that just can't be true. CNN's Vladimir Duthiers reports.